That's it. So I think that's looks like it's happening. We'll get assign, and I'm assigning you then just in case there's any issues. Okay, and we'll get Esther, Pete, Matthew, and Patrick here. Okay, I think that's us.
Good stuff. Shall I start, Fergus?
Yes, if you want to crack on, that's brilliant. Thank you, Patrick.
Good, good. Great. And nice to meet you all. Glad that most of you have had the digital reviews, which I had a quick look on. So I've used some of your businesses as visual examples, more to make it relevant rather than any sort of, don't take it as me holding you up as good or bad, it's just a general relevancy. So I'll rattle through. I've got a load to go through, 15 minutes. So I think if you're thinking of anything that you'd like to ask questions on, then fire them in chat and we can maybe get them at the end. So as quickly as we can, what I'm going to cover is user experience, reputation, search engine listings, some SEO, some bookings and discoverability. So one of the main things I'm going to talk is just from context perspective. Every one of you are going to have these three things to think about when you're putting together a strategy. It's about what time can you afford to give it to anything digital, what's my actual skills in doing it, and what money can I expend to get a decent return on it. Those are always the sort of balance of things. So in terms of what I want to do is just give you 6 steps, quickly sort of make you think about things and some practical stuff you can implement when you get back to your desk and back to work. So have a look at your user experience on your mobile site. Really sort of examine it from the perspective of who's your preferred target audience, and does everything that you've got on that homepage as a real starting point really speak to them in order that you stop that thumb scrolling down and get them to click through to yourself. So working through that, and you can see the sort of level of density, the sort of very key messages that these put across. Does that really stop that person, your profile target, and get them to talk to you effectively by examining your product through your biggest shop front, which is your mobile website. So tip number 1, walk the walk. Do it with your mobile phone. So looking at reputation and reassurance, one of the most, I would suggest, commonly overseen and forgotten about, although most people participate in it, but they don't actually understand the level of importance and actually how it can, in some cases, substitute when you haven't got the time to do, back to that balance, when you haven't got the time to do the other stuff like create new content or make some social posts. Your reputation and reassurance is so important. So you've got to think about which platform is the most important. Is it Facebook? Is it TripAdvisor? Is it Google? Preferably, I would suggest that you look at all of those three and seek to respond to them, engage with them, and all that engagement in itself is huge from a Google perspective, and being able to say this is a trustworthy site. This is actually a business that engages with their customer, and they'll pick up even that amount of toing and froing between a customer and a business in terms of the reviews and responses. So key, as well as the fact that you're talking to an audience, for example, in TripAdvisor, of up to 260 million visits in any given week or any given month. So talk to that audience as well as the person that is leaving the review. So it's at so many levels, and think about it in those respects. But also use it in all of those opportunities like your website, your confirmation templates, your newsletters, your social media, on your business cards if you still use them, any of your print or external signage. Use that reassurance, use your quality assurance, use your TripAdvisor reviews. It is so important because that other element of engagement, but the third bit as well is a conversion. If people trust you, they'll do business with you, and there's no better way than on your online reputation, which is what this is effectively about. So these are the sort of visual image examples. So my call to you, tip number 2, manage those reviews as a really active thing. So in terms of search engine listings, what we're doing, one of the ones that that is so important, Google effectively owns the market. It's got over 60% of the share. Make sure you go into your Google My Business account, make sure that every piece of that estate is as up to date and as accurate. So optimize it where possible at all. So, and use those elements of, rather download the app, make sure that you can make it easy for you to respond in reviews, and use the functionality as well, such as being able to post or add events. As you'll see, there's a little screenshot there of showing you how one of the group has actually done that in their launch. And then very simply, although Google owns 60% of the marketplace, Bing has a chunk. Certainly I work for a company where Microsoft Edge is our key browser. And I guess some of my colleagues sometimes at lunchtime will go looking for things to do, and Bing will be giving those returns to them. So make sure you claim your Bing business listing. You can do that really easily, actually, if you've already done it on Google. It allows you to export it. So that's, again, a little snapshot of how it can be done. So tip number 3, ensure your business is verified and optimized on Google and Bing. From a search engine optimization, I'm not going to go into any of the technical stuff. We're actually doing a series of webinars which dives into that much more in depth, and I know Ferguson has got those to share with you if you're interested. So from an optimization, it's all about the optics, being able to see you so that you've got that you actually are seen. Making sure your website is secure. Very simple thing. Is so important, and that is mobile friendly. I've already touched upon that. Your user journey should be mobile, but significantly your website has to be friendly, and that its site speed is such. This is something from 2021. Google is now looking at the speed of your site in terms of how it ranks you. So do the small things that might help you. So a quick check, is it secure? This is a good one. You'll see up here, let's get the cursor. If we got that little icon, and if you want to do any sort of purchase, if you want to get your customers to give you your credit card, you really want this icon. What you don't want is something like this, where your connection to the site is not secure. That immediately is alarm bells for anyone that you're about to convert. If you've done all the lovely stuff like reassure them, etc., and then they get this message, it ain't going to help your conversion rate. So little simple thing, go and check it. It's very easy to get an SSL certificate, which is what it's called, to make sure that your site is secure. And then simply check your mobile friendliness. That's the URL you can bang it into. Just go into Google, fire in mobile friendly test, and put your home URL in there. Check if Google thinks that your website is mobile friendly. And finally, do a quick check on your page insights just to see how fast it is. Now, Google's changing this and going into a bit more depth, but fundamentally, I would just have a quick look. If it's below if it's higher than the industry average, generally speaking, one of the biggest problems is the images on your site, and look to see if you can optimize those images. That is a starting point. If you want to do more, you probably need to bring a developer in to have a look at it. Again, we're doing some stuff on the webinars if you want to do a little bit more learning on that, you feel you want to do it. So tip 4, just check your website is secure, check it's mobile friendly. So one of the key things I think that, again, if you've done all of this work, online bookings and increasing your distribution is important. I know Andy's going to touch on this in terms of his experience, which is much more valuable than me talking about it. But if you haven't got a booking system, you really should. There's a great analogy that I heard fairly recently about why you should have a booking system, and the analogy was, it's like inviting a load of people to a party at your house, but you lock your front door so that no one can get in. That's what a booking system is all about now. You can do all the marketing in the world, but if you frustrate people in terms of being able to do what they want to do by not being able to give them live availability, live confirmation, then you're really making life so much more difficult. There's so many better things you can get from a booking system. We're not going to go into that, but fundamentally, as a visitor habit, the trend to book online has gone exponentially up over the last 2 years. It was already important. So there's a list of ones that might be useful to you. We've got actually a page on VisitScotland.org which explains a whole raft of booking systems functionality. It gives you a checklist to check through if it's something that you need to do. So tip number 5, invest in online availability in a booking system. Tip number 6 is one that I would suggest every one of you look at, particularly if you're new to this, to business, and it's about if you've got inventory and you want to start distributing. Using an online travel agent can really sort of accelerate and reach new target audiences. But when you do look at it, make sure you really check out that you're using the right online travel for you. If you know it's the big guys like Get Your Guide or Viator, or do you want to drill down a little bit more to the likes of Much Better Adventures? But be very clear on what your objectives are. Is it about increasing demand? Is it about reaching a new customer? Is it a new market? Or is it a particular product that you want to test to see if you've got the pricing right, if you can get some, is it volume or value? But critically negotiate when you do sign with any of these. So tip number 6, consider what OTAs might be relevant to your business and see if it fits with the balance of all of the other channels you'll use to distribute. So that's 6. And a wee bonus one I'm going to fire at you just now is, and this is one that's come from something that we're looking at. We're going to give a bit more information. I'll give it actually a bit more in-depth at the day up in Dunkeld, but have a look at Google Things to Do. Now, the reason I'm saying that, Google have just introduced this in the last couple of months. It's specifically for attractions, activity providers, and there's an even better one for tours as well. There was a piece of research that was done at international level which said that 60% of the sector didn't even know about this. So there's a huge chunk of those out there that haven't activated this, and it's very easy to do. So maybe even do a bit of research before I come and meet you on the 7th and find out how you can do it. We just recently tried, well, we're in the process of writing up how to do it, and we looked for an example in Scotland. We could not get one. So if that's not a business opportunity for every single one of you, then I couldn't think of anything else. That's me, folks. Hope that's been useful. Any questions? Happy to have a chat with you. There's an example, sorry, of Google Things to Do. You're getting your official site at the top of all of the listings on your knowledge graph.
Patrick, thank you, as always, insightful as always. I think, you know, we've just had a question in there from Pete to do with, do you want to just jump in there, Pete, on the question you had there on the booking system?
Yeah, thanks very much, Fergus. Yeah, it's just, have you any experience on booking systems that work well for people who offer bespoke tours? I mean, basically all of our tours are bespoke, so we've always found it a wee bit tricky when we're trying to work out. Have you any experience of that?
Do you know, rather than answer that, I'm going to let Andy pick up on that if he's it might fit with. The only thing I would say, excuse me, talking. Sorry. The only answer I would give to that, it's two things. One, the solutions that are out there have developed so much. The argument was even 3 to 4 years ago was, I've got so many variables, there is no way I can get a booking system that can satisfy that. The solutions have developed so much now that the majority of what you require will be solved. the bit for me is that there maybe always will be a little bit of compromise, and I'm interested in hearing that compromise. That's probably why I'm coming on the 7th, just to see if there's any glaring things that are not covered off. But and therefore we will go back to that checklist and sort of say, is there anyone that's better at fulfilling one of these bigger issues? So I would with confidence say there is something there for you. I think Andy can bring the practical piece to you, and then maybe we can follow up on the Dunkeld day if you're coming along.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I think just to add to that, it's a moving feast. I seem to be having conversations regularly where another product has appeared in the marketplace, and I was chatting to Kevin from 42 Cycling this week. He's coming down to the workshop, which is great. It'll get a wee bit of his time, but he was describing a new booking sort of platform that's it's a German-based company. So I'll maybe connect you in with him and maybe see if that's something that works. I just know that. Andy, do you want to jump in here? I know when you were looking at booking systems, and you know, it is quite a complicated area to get something that does everything. There's nothing that really does everything. It's about that compromise thing that Patrick mentioned.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I've gone full circle with booking systems, as you know, Fergus, for the last sort of 16 years, from being around when there were very, very few adventure and activity booking systems, and we created our own, to now where there's so many off-the-shelf packages that'll do what you want. I think, sorry, was it Pete?
Yeah,
I was asking a question. Yeah, Pete. So I think to answer your question, I think most of the booking systems now will deal with bespoke tours. I mean, the one I use is Booking Hound, and I know that will deal with bespoke tours, because you can just create a category, an activity or a tour, and schedule it on a specific date, with, you know, with whatever resources and whatever number of participants you want. So yeah, there's definitely stuff out there, but as Fergus and Patrick said, there'll always be a compromise somewhere, and you're always going to have some form of manual workaround somewhere, in my experience. So, but yeah, I would say, like, I mean, have a look at Booking Now, for sure. I don't know where it's going to go, because it's just been taken over by Beyonc recently.
Okay.
So that might.
What I'll do is, well, I'll repost out onto the WhatsApp group the workshops that Patrick alluded to there. There's a series of sort of digital seminars being ran online again, via Business Gateway and in partnership with Visit Scotland. So I'll repost that out for you for that information, because they can be quite helpful as well. Patrick, thank you.
Fergus, can I just throw something in there to Pete? Probably best if have you contacted any of them directly and said, this is what I want to do, this is what I want, and no. So what I would suggest is do a one-pager scope out of what your requirements are. You're actually, although they're in control because they're much bigger than all of us, but you're giving them a brief to say, this is what I want. And as Andy has said, you know, there's the 2 or 3 Booking Hound, 2 or 3 of them out there. Get in touch with them and say, who's your local Scottish manager? Who can I contact? Send it into them and say, this is what I'm looking for. And then what it comes back to is, how do they respond to you? How do they react to you as a client? As they will, you know, because some will say, you're too small fry, we're not interested, because you're not going to have enough volume for us. Or the others that come back and say, yeah, I'm sure we can work something. And if you're prepared to compromise, that would be my suggestion as a way to find the solution that you're looking for.
So Stuart, jump in again. I think what you'll find, mate, is it'll come down to cost and what's value for money for you. Most of these companies that I've dealt with, I mean, I've been around the block with all of them. You will send the one pager, and they will basically just try and sign you up to an online demo and push you into a sale. But do all the demos, because they're all useful, and play around with them with dummy bookings for a month. You know, I would look at Checkfront. I would look at Booking Hound, Fair Harbor, depending on what your view is on things like the pricing strategies, because some of them now you're either looking at you absorb the booking fee or you pass the booking fee on to the customer. And I think that depends on your business model. If for me, passing the fee onto the customer doesn't work, because if I'm dealing with volume, if I'm dealing with like a family that are booking 5 activities for a week, and that's a £2,000 sale, if I then add on a sort of 6% booking fee onto that, it makes people book. So I either you either have to absorb that or choose a different solution. But yeah, you'll just find out by doing all the demos and getting in and playing around with it what works.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Stuart, as well, and thanks again, Patrick. Look forward to. I'll try and catch up with you before the 7th and 8th, but look